All right, welcome to the Wet, Wild, and Warpy channel. Today we're talking about what is going on in the meta. We have Kurt Phillips and Jeremy Knox here with us today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to them individually so that they can tell you how long they've been playing, what armies they play, and if they're on a team, anything like that, they want to do a shout out, they can go ahead and do it. Jeremy, why don't we start with you?
Hey everyone, so my name is Jeremy Knotts. A lot of you have known me for the teal army, so I typically have teal, gold, purple, that bright blue guy that you always see at the tournaments. But I've been playing this game since I was 12 years old, so going on what 24 years. Competitively, only 3 years. I was mainly stuck to a local gaming group, never really branched out. And then once I started branching out at local RTTs through Field of Fire Gaming, that was when I really got into the competitive scene and been addicted to it ever since. Currently, the army of choice that I'm playing is I always have to call them the Eldari, right? Like, I play Drukari, I play Craft Worlds, I play Harlequins, I play a combination of them all. So just use the super faction, make it super simple. Currently, right now in ITC number one in that ranking, top 40 on the global top 20 US. So, I've been down through there with Eldari this season. Pretty pleased with what I've been seeing so far, and super excited to dive in with what I've been finding in the tournament scene.
Awesome. Kurt?
Kurt Phillips. Uh, Story is pretty similar to Jeremy. Been playing most of my life, but really in the last few years, once I got involved with Coastal Wargaming over in Virginia and some in North Carolina, really started getting into competitive for a few years now. Um, really, it's all been about Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequins. That's what I played basically since I started. I've had some other armies here and there, but never played with any of them competitively, so I'm always excited to talk about some elves.
Always about the Space Elves. All right. So we saw that Harlequins had a fantastic showing when they came out, and I don't know as though Craftworlds hit quite the same way. Do we expect to see Craftworlds kind of live longer than Harlequins after uh, the nerf to the Void Weavers?
So
Or
I
Yeah,
think with Craft Worlds, we were hit a bit with that current meta build, which was indirect fire and trash, get a big unit brick in the center and have your opponent try to deal with you while you're firing at them from out of line of sight. But what we're going to see here with the Craft World book is that it's going to be a deep kind of evolution like we saw with Drukari. Once you saw one style build get nerfed. Another one ran rampant for 3 months. Then that one got nerfed. I think Drukari got nerfed like 5 times before they got in balance. And with the current codex for Eldari, it's like there's just so many combinations in there. We're going to cover a few of them today, but I think that there's a lot more builds out here than just right now. The one that is popping is Hell of Doom and Masterful Shots, but I think that there's going to be way more that crop up. I know Austin Wingfield has been spearheading, really strong build 10 build. Oathway is still, top meta in the US, whereas the UK is Hell of Doom and Masterful Shots. Vic Vijay had convinced me to go Hell of Doom. So, I've been rocking with those guys for a while and I've been loving it.
what path have you been taking with the Eldari right now, Kurt?
so I was first started with Biltan, um, and then that grew into Ulthway, and then most recently it's been the Hail of Doom. Once I actually put it on the table, especially with a bunch of bikes and just spamming shuriken weapons, it really became obvious to me. I'm like, oh, this is why this is good. Like it doesn't seem that crazy on paper, but when you realize you probably have close to 200 shuriken shots in the list, uh, it gets pretty insane. But similar to what Jamie was saying, I think with this, I don't think that there are any combos that are just like egregiously broken to a point where they need a nerf bat. You're going to see some little nerfs here and there, honestly, I think the non-line of sight nerf helped elves more than it hurt them. I mean, we lost some night spinners, but our strength was to battle focus and fire and fade. Before, non-line of sight weapons could then just hit you, but now you're not going to see many of them. So I think it really buffs craft worlds, but I don't think there's any like terribly broken builds like Void Weavers or something that GW is going to be like, we need to stop this.
So is Hail of Doom what we're going to see for the near future going in, especially with Tyranids who are currently sitting, if not on the top, still very close to the top? Chaos Knights coming soon. Imperial Knights, I'm sure, are on their way. Is that Hail of Doom situation is still going to sit high, or are we going to see more psychic spam coming into the game, or are Nids just going to keep the psychics kind of pushed down? If that makes sense.
I'll let you take
Me?
this one
I'll go.
first.
Yeah. I think Halo Doom. I mean, I don't even think Halo Doom has really became far and above the top one. I really think you're going to see, and I think this is what I was just saying. This is why I don't think you're going to see a bunch of nerfs. I think it's going to be pretty evenly spread. Now, I'd be interested to see how much more effective Halo Doom becomes if knights are running around. But I mean, Ulthway is still like really good, and Biltan's still really good. So I think you're gonna see those three. Probably nothing else. I mean, maybe some little like niche lists or something, but I think it's gonna be pretty even among those three.
All right.
And how I view it is that, Hell of Doom is a high skill cap style craft world choice. It's not one of those that you can just run out into the center and try to dump your opponent with overwhelming firepower. You have the damage output to do it, but you really have to understand the trading game when it comes down to Hell of Doom. That's what makes it so powerful, is that you can continue to whittle away your opponent and then, disappear. But the thing is that if you get caught lacking, you're going to get blown up, right?
Yeah.
We're still Eldar at the end of the day. We're T3, T4 models. And the downside of this is that now you have no invulnerable saves. You have no mortal wounds. There are people that are running that warding runes, which is
Mm-hmm.
the 6-up invuln, 5-up put no pain against mortals. But the downside of that is that you lose ignore cover, so now your swooping hawks become less effective. Your standard shuriken weapons become less effective. And essentially how I view this is that it really is won and lost in the deploy and movement phase. If you don't know how to deploy or move correctly, and not just deploy an army, but deploy player place terrain, so you can have these angles that you can hop in and hop out of. I mean, I caught a guy slipping one time. He put his ran his swooping hawks back into a ruins with windows, and I was like, was that intentional? Yeah, you can't see him. I was like, well, my bike see him, and then blew him right off the board. So I do see that it's going to be split across Ulthway. I think Ulthway is the easiest to play. Beltan is probably next in line for that, and then Hell of Doom is, it's amazing in the right hands.
So in kind of each of these lists, what shining stars are we kind of seeing in each of the list builds? Are they the same throughout, or is one unit kind of shining in this area, and then we move over and see something else shine in the
I
other
think
lists?
so many. There's so many unit books that are Halo Doom. It's all about the bikes, just spamming shuriken as much as possible. Biltan, you want aspect warriors in a lot of your lists, especially like swooping hawks. They're all the hotness right now, but Biltan take gives you some serious more punching power with a lot of your aspect warriors. Ulthway, it's kind of everything. It's well rounded, but I mean, there's so many good units that are basically just good throughout all of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this book is incredibly deep. There really is a kind of a tool for everything in this book. If you need to hit something hard with a lot of AP, you can look into something like Fire Dragons. If you need a lot of text, I mean, there's a million different ways and to do this. So I know that the Falcon turn one swoop in with Fire Dragons was popular. Are we going to continue to see that?
It depends on, the person's play style, right? So at the last GT I went to in Fredericksburg, YHP, I ran, three Falcons, single dragon, double dire avenger. And I found myself, because I wanted to get the auto wounds within 9 inches, I found myself not deep striking fire dragons, but having that option was good. Um, Typically, what I'll do is I'll just deploy one Falcon on the board and then have it in behind the big run. As soon as something comes to the middle, get that extra 3 inches out of the Falcon and, run up to get within 9. And there goes your Malicept or your Hive Tyrant. I mean, all you got to do is fail, two, two of those 4 bin bones, especially when you cast Gaia on them. Fire Pike is absolutely nasty when it comes to that burning heat. And if you get that in a Beltan list and you can, explode those sixes, it's absolutely brutal. So I really see fire dragons, they're going to always be strong. I just wish they were a little bit cheaper. Primary reason is that once you start, tooling them out, typically I like to run 6 fire dragons with burning heat. Then that takes out Baharoth as a to the last, and that's kind of against my religion right now.
See, I went all in with the fire dragons last time, and I know there's a lot of hype about the Falcons and everything. I just put 10 with the auto wounds into a wave serpent and stuck it in the ruin in the middle of the board. They actually rarely died because I just screened out like the ruin, jumped out, blasted whatever came to midboard, like 10 auto wounding D6 plus 2 damage shots. Anything's going to die typically. And then just get back behind that wall and still just kind of block it out so I can't get charged through it. And with that, people not running line of sight things like I was talking about, it just 265 sounds like a lot of points, but man, they made their points back like twice over.
So we actually have a question, and that is, what NID units do Eldar want to remove first? Is there anything that's scarier from the NIDS list that maybe you need to focus immediately?
Harpies, 100%.
Yeah,
Because that's going to be the only unit that can touch you until you want to be touched, right? With the Maliceptor, you can move block him with some Vipers or War Walkers, trap him in the building. I mean, we saw a play with where Nanavati had just took 3 Wind Riders in a tournament and just, boxed that Maliceptor in. So he couldn't move in the movement phase. Yeah, they're going to get mortaled off the board, but hey, you lose a turn of movement. That's
Right.
really huge when you're trying to get them in that 9-inch bubble. So the threat level for Maliceptors have gone down tremendously. My biggest things are, Raveners that can get back there and, just mulch everything up. But Harpies is the main thing because like turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, once the opponent army starts to approach you, Eldar had the unique gift of being able to flip the board. So I'm not going to be in my deployment zone anymore. I'm going to be in your deployment zone, and I'm going to make you walk back to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my old Drukari methods, right? That was how I used to, do my herd to prey. I just flip the board.
Yep.
Not there anymore.
All right. So it's not just, obviously, it's not just models that win games, right? You have to score the points in order to win the game. What secondaries are Eldar really kind of crushing at right now, and which ones do you kind of go, do you want to just stay away from these? You're going to have trouble even trying them.
but I tell you what, it's sketchy if I'm going up against NIDS. If I have Othway and the auto casting on, then I would take it. But just about against most other armies, maybe not thousands, something. But I'm taking like Psychic Interrogation or something along those lines. It's almost an auto include unless you're playing against NIDS, and you don't have that auto, can't deny on a 9-up relic. And then Battlefield Supremacy, as always, just elf. Whether it's Stranglehold, sometimes you can, if your list is built for it, you can go for behind enemy lines or engage. And after that, unless I'm missing something, that's when I try to look at what my opponent's listed. I might take R&D if my list is built for it, or bring it down if they have a bunch of bugs, something like that. But that's typically what I go for. What do you look at, Jeremy?
So I try to go for so Typically, I have at least two secondaries built into my list. Number one is to the last. Right now, I'm rocking double hawks and Bahara, so I can control like how you engage with them, which is you're not going to engage with them. So, they're going to come out, they're going to shoot you, and then they're going to leave. They can go anywhere on the board, which is so bananas. But that makes a strong 15 points because as long as you don't get caught, in a mental fart, you're going to guarantee yourself those 15 points. And I like guaranteed points, so I try to go with R&D mostly because I'm going to have Dire Avengers coming in from either deep strike or outflank. They're going to come in, perform the action, and then they're going to just annihilate whatever they shoot at. And then I take the last two quarters, late game or whatnot, because typically when I deploy, I have nothing on the field. So R&D to the last, and then I like Stranglehold because I can just keep trading trash all day long. That's my thing. Is me and my opponent will continue to get 8 together, but the thing is who's going to be able to flip that one turn to me getting 12 and them getting 4, or even worse, 0. So I use a lot of OBSEC units. So I have typically a set of guardians that'll come in from the Webway gate or outflank. Have a Dire Avenger unit that is going to be OBSEC through Stand Firm. The Swooping Hawks, if you need to, they can also be OBSEC with Baharath near them. And then of course Will of Astrian. It's just godly. It's just like, oh, that's a unit over there. Let me cast OBSEC over there. And then my favorite play is always the Quicken Sunstorm. That's how you usually get your opponent to get that 0. And the first person that gets the 0 ends up losing the game, which is what I've always found out. So I love having that 26-inch moving bike and then being able to, double jump them. I also have Warp Ritual built into my list as well. So I have a little Warlock Conclave in case, one of my other 3 secondaries I don't want to do like TTL. I want to be able to, use my entire army, for damage output. So then I'll just, fall back to like a Warp Ritual, and I'll keep sending Sunstorm out to the center, cast Warp Ritual, and then quicken him back. And usually I'll have a Fate dice around for the quicken part. Primarily, I'm not concerned about perils because I have, Warlock Conclave of 2. So most I can take is 3. I have 1 wound left on a guy. I'm okay with that. So those are the 4 that I really look at when I'm playing now. If I'm Ultway, that means I'm running Bright Lances a lot. So Bring It Down is generally good. Engage is really good with Ultway lists. So and that's what we're talking about. This codex, you can really find multiple secondaries and build it into your list and score really high. If you look at how the armies play out, Hella Doom is not overpowered. But the fact, like, if you look at every Eldar game, they're rarely tabling you. They're just beating you by, primaries and secondaries. So they'll score like 97, you'll score 60, and you'll still have half your army on the table. So I don't see why they would nerf that at all.
So, we know that there's. I actually have 2 here. One, we know that you can bring Harlequins in a patrol. Do you think moving forward you'll see some Harlequins being mixed into, or are we going to stay pure? And 2, there was a lot of hype about the Webway gate before the Codex came out, with the leaks that came out. Is it worth putting a Webway gate in your list, or is it 80 points that is best used somewhere else?
As far as
So
Harlequins, you want to go? Yeah.
I'll let you cover the Harlequins. I'll cover the Webway gate.
All right. As far as Harlequins go, depends on what you're doing. Harlequins, like the actual troops and the transports characters are all really good, and I think Harlequins provide um, that kind of cheaper, just fast, can be trash or can be good unit, but basically just something that's just advancing around the board, stealing objectives. I think where the Harlequin patrol and a craft army come in strong is when you're just like 5 mans, cheap 5 mans. I mean, you could upgrade the weapons on them or something, but basically just to steal objectives. I think they're better at that than most, if not all, of Craft World units. Um, but then again, if you just wanted to bring characters or something, I think it's really good. I think it just depends on how much uh, Craft World you really want to have, because it will be worth it to put Harlequins into your army. It just depends on, as you're making your list, sometimes you're just like, damn, I just want to have more cohesiveness or something, along the lines of like the craft world that you're taking and the powers and everything. Sometimes you just want to run it pure. So it just comes down to how you want to build your list.
So if you're putting Harlequins in, they need a role. They need a job. You're not just putting them in for fun. They need to fill out something that your craft worlds maybe aren't doing as well as you'd like them to, or maybe as points efficiently as you'd like them to. Jeremy?
Yeah, so I totally agree with his assessment of the state of Harlequins. I mean, I've considered, a little patrol detachment just for the, I can't get through this wall with bikes. So, yeet a troop master back there, have 5 troops come out of the Webway with OPSEC. That's that trash trading that I like to talk about. They're really good at trading trash too. With the Webway Gate, you don't really take it for the positioning and how you put it on the board. I take it for the CP, man. Like being able to put up to like 30 power level into strategic reserves for 1 CP, that gives you so much flexibility, especially when you are dealing with an army that is CP hungry. So I'd rather just spend 80 points, be able to, save points on number one, not spending 140, 150 points on a Wave Serpent. Number two, not spending 140 points on a Falcon to deliver these things. And then, you're still going to end up spending 3 CP to do the whole deep strike 1 unit, and then the Phantasm, the other 3 out. I can pretty much take my entire army off the board for 4 CP. 1 CP to deep strike a unit.
Yep.
1 CP for reserves up to 30 power level, and then Phantasm 3 units out of there. So then, that's where I get that true, like, I'm not going to be there in my deployment zone, so you're not going to touch me turn 1 because I'm literally not on the table. Only thing that you're going to be able to touch are like some Vipers and Warwalkers and the Swooping Hawks, because the Swooping Hawks, I want to be able to, still come out and shoot those guys for like 80 shots per turn, and they typically last 5 turns.
So speaking of being CP hungry, I know every list is gonna kind of use their stratagems differently, but what would you say are some of the best stratagems in the Codex, and how do you guys generally use
Focus
them and
6
how
inches.
often?
Battle focus 6 inches every turn. Fire and fade sometimes, but literally just moving after shooting. I spam it until I'm out of CP. Obviously, there's some other the shuriken exploding on 6s, butter. I don't know. Where's some more, Jeremy?
Yeah, you stole that one, Bladestorm. That one. I get into some situations where it's like, do I cast Bladestorm? Do I do Bladestorm, or do I do the battle focus? Matchless agility thing, the auto 6 inches, because I want to be able to get bailed out of a bad situation if at all possible. So those are really strong. Eldritch Storm. Now I will say that has done some slam dunks for me. You're gonna give up all your CP, but when you can put 30 mortal wounds across an army, and just the look of your opponent's face when you drop that thing, it's like, yeah, I want all of that in 6 inches. Like, you didn't even know I could do this, right? Yeah, that's why we discussed this at the beginning of the game. You just forgot about it. And the main thing with me is, like, I like to use it as a threat because simply I run 3 Farseers, but I don't have to always drop Eldritch Storm. So what it does, it forces them to play spread out and really think about the auras that they want to use. So it's kind of a way to be anti-aura for them. And it's a great form of indirect. I mean, that stratagem is money when it goes off. Now, I have gone into a game where I've literally rolled 4 1s out of 5 and only hit 1 unit with a D3 plus 3 mortal wound bomb. And I was like, are you serious? And then I rolled a 1 on the mortal wound side. So it was like 4 mortal wounds, okay, this is that round my dice go to crap. But so you can't just like count on it. It's great from a psychological perspective. And then I'm trying to think of is there another one? Oh, that wire weave grenade strap for the Stroud runners. That thing's money. Being able to toss a D3 mortal wounds and like half your movement or something like that, half your charges. Austin used that on a stream game at Battlegrounds, I think like 2 weeks ago, and it really had me considering adding those Shroud Runners into the list just for that stratagem. Like that's huge, especially when you're facing opposing Phoenix Lords and you have Karandras in your back line. It's like, well, here in the movement phase, take these D3 border wounds, and then he goes in charge, take off another one or two, and then you kill him in combat.
A couple more of them were kind of the generic ones that we've kind of seen for a while. Phantasm, that was already mentioned. That's a very common stratagem to really set up your early game. Feigned retreat, basically the same thing as Yukari had. Fall back, shoot, and fight. Charge, I mean. Forewarned has been a good one that I just constantly love having in my back pocket, especially if I have like a big unit of like shuriken cannon bikes or something near Farseer, and I'm like, you want a deep strike back in my backfield, but do you? Because that's just such a good one to have in the pocket. I'm about to like blast you with all these shots if you come back here. Yeah, I think those are some of the probably the more used ones.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can get in and disrupt what your opponent was planning on doing, it's a win on our side. And we've talked about that a couple times with the Elder Storm and the Forewarned. Are there any other ways that you guys really either not to play gotcha, but like things that you let your opponent know happen, but when they happen, your opponent's still like kind of reeling for a moment?
Say my entire army battle focusing. Like a lot of opponents, especially, don't have like a lot of practice into this book. They're like, oh, okay, but then they realize they can't see the entire game, and they're like, my army's dying, and I can't get to you, I can't see you. We already named some of the kind of stratagems that make your opponent have to think, but I think really just the shenanigans of being hit and not shooting and not being hit back would probably be the most frustrating for the opponent.
Whooping Hawks. Gotta
Yeah,
love it. Baharat,
yeah.
gotta love it. And GW, feel free to go ahead and give Baharat the point increase. I'll support that 100%. Take him to 150, please. And that's just because I find myself with TTL to the last, me having to take
Right.
like units below 150, 140, and that gets really frustrating. I mean, I literally went away from like 5 Shuriken bikes because they were 150 instead of 140. Makes me
So,
sad.
next up, what relics or warlord traits are auto takes for you guys, or and which ones tempt you the most?
I'm an archer. I like the bow. Like that
I'm
bow.
not a big fan of it, but I see why you like it.
Because the biggest thing is like, one turn if you need something like dead, and it's like down to like anywhere between 6 and 7 wounds, you can reliably pick it up. Biggest thing is trying to get the 3 hit dice and the 1 wound dice on Strands of Fate, and that would produce what, 8 mortal wounds. So you can get up 6 to 8 mortal wounds from this guy, and that's at 18 inches, and then you can just battle focus him back behind a ruin, and it's like, okay, well that was a thing, and my Maliceptor's dead. So
See,
that's my favorite relic.
I prefer Sunstorm. I don't always take it, but I like it. I prefer the Weeping Stone for the extra fate dice. I mean, fate dice we haven't even really touched on yet. They're one of the biggest reasons that really contribute to a lot of the Eldar units kind of hitting over their weight class and performing better than what you think they would. So getting more options fate dice is nearly auto take for me if I have like an extra war or something. Kind of shape CP that's going on it, and then I would say Sunstorm next. And then the other relics that I would take are locked in. The Oathway relic is the no an extra power, and if you cast on a 9+, it can't be denied. That's incredible. The built-in relic is shoot, what is it? It's good. I think it's also like no an extra power or something. I forget. But yeah,
Yeah,
some of
it's no extra power, and I think it like does something with your battle focus. Let me see.
it does something. It's a good relic. I forget exactly.
While
I
he's
haven't
looking
played
that
built
up,
in a few months.
why don't you give us a synopsis of what Strands of Fate is for those that are watching?
Oh yeah, so at the beginning of every battle round, you roll 6 dice. You shake them up real good, throw them on the table, and then you see what you got. And there's a chart for 1 to 6, as you know, that tell you what if you roll a 1, there's a chart that says that's for advanced rolls. So any advanced roll that you roll in the game, instead of rolling it, you just say no, it's a 6. So all these dice are automatic 6 based on whatever you roll in the chart. Every farseer you bring allows you to re-roll one of the dice for each farseer. Weeping stones, I believe it's the one that gives you a 7th die to roll at the beginning if you take oath weight. So you can keep 4 of them. If you take oath weight, you can keep 5. So that's another thing that makes oath weight really good. So it's basically just a way to get free 6s every battle round in the spots you really need them, and it's so strong.
It's like free command points.
Yep,
It's-
better.
But
Yeah,
better than free command points.
Yeah,
because it's auto sixes. But
yeah,
do we find that
Yeah. So that relic, you just basically make Eldrad Junior extra psychic power, and you can reroll one psychic test per
yeah,
turn.
okay.
So that's really strong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you take Eldrad, right? Because he got the
right.
rerolls and the third power.
All right. Is there anything about this army you guys feel we have not covered?
A lot, but it's like
There's so
200
much.
pages long.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
mean, we could talk.
I don't think we're gonna cover it all.
Yeah, if we were talking about doing a codex review, we could probably do 6 hours of codex
Yeah,
review. This book is so thick.
it's a
But
thick boy.
is there anything you guys specifically want to cover?
We talk about, the strengths of Eldar, but we rarely touch on the weaknesses of Eldar. A lot of people will pick up this army expecting to, auto win their games. They get frustrated when they don't auto win their games is because they have that mentality like with other armies such as Tyranids, Tau, they have all these defensive mechanisms whereas like the defensive mechanism for Eldar is not built into the armor and the invulnerable saves, it's built into the movement. So you can't just come out and think, oh, I got like 3 Wraith Lords and I'm gonna just, stand in the middle. I'm gonna dumpster everything. I got, -1 damage, T8 bodies. I'm like, well, guess what? You're only 9 wounds and you don't have an invulnerable save unless you're Oathway. So, you know, a lot of people will get frustrated with the army like this because they're not accustomed to glass cannons. And, we hit really hard, but we can't take a punch back. There's no way. So that's the reason why you hear Kurt and I harping on this whole movement phase aspect. I mean, shoot, with Drukari, you can go in, with grotesque and racks and, hit hard and stay hard. But with Eldar, you just hit harder, but, you just get blown away with a stiff breeze. So that's been my experience. Like, they're not forgiving at all. So it's like if you make, an error, it's going to be really hard to recover from. Whereas a Tyranid army, you can make the most critical of errors and still recover and still win the game. Whereas Eldar, it's, you know, you got to master that movement phase. You got to master the out of band action phase. So, make sure you remember your battle focus moves. If you do advance, make sure it's worth it to advance because that unit's going to get picked up if you can't protect it. So those are just some things that I like to call out. Like I don't want people to think that while Eldar is on that line of S tier and A tier, I don't think that they're what we've seen out of previous S tier armies as far as durability along with damage output. What's
Like
been your experience?
like with all craft world, I'd say elf units, armies. Uh, Kind of what you're touching on, and the best description of it is how the phrase high ceiling, low floor, like, and that's what I love about it. Because if you're playing well, you have the ability to win tournaments. But if some guy who's never really played with them before picks them up, there's a good chance it's not like they're going to go 3-2 or something just because it's a really good army. They're probably going to get smoke checked for most of the tournament, depending on obviously the quality of their opponents. But it's one of the biggest reasons why I've always loved the elves, outside of the aesthetic, is, as Jeremy just mentioned, the movement phase, because that's where the Eldar really make their money. If you're not utilizing the movement phase uh, as well as you can, just your pure killing and staying power isn't going to win you a lot of games against some of the other top tier armies. You need to do what you do better than them, and that is move.
So the movement phase is definitely like, if there's a phase where the game is won and lost, no matter what army you are, it's the movement phase. If you're not where you need to be, it doesn't matter how much damage you deal. You can't win the game. If you're not holding objectives, you can't win the game. If you can't get there, you can't win the game. But one of the things that I love about Eldar, and one of the reasons that I continue to play them, is because they give you so many options in a turn. But one of the reasons that it makes my head hurt while I'm playing is because I have so many options in a turn. If you can only move 6 inches a turn, you're really limited on what you do in that turn. When you can move 26 inches in a turn, there are a lot of mistakes you can make.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere within that 26 inches is something really annoying to your opponent. And you just got to find what that thing is. It's a puzzle. Every turn's a puzzle with Eldar.
Yep, that's a good way to put it. I love it.
So, well, I think that just about covers it. If you guys have enjoyed the content, do the whole like and the subscribe and the notifications thingy so you see more of this stuff. If you want to complain about something we got wrong, say it in the comments. If you guys want to do shout outs, go ahead and do them now.
Coastal Wargaming, my boys down here in Virginia, North Carolina, and probably some other areas too that I don't even know about. But we're doing big things. What?
And then, of course, I'll represent for the Battle Brothers. Team Battle Brothers has been rocking hard for a while, and brotherhood is what it's all about. And want to give Matei a shout out. He's leaving us, and he's going back home to Europe, and we were blessed to have him for as long as we did. But it won't be the last time we get to play against him. He's a super sharp player, and can't wait for the world to really get to play against him.
Oh yeah, he's got to get back because I need to play him again.
I'm gonna miss him so much.
Yeah,
like I'm broken by this.
He's such a great guy. He lightens up the room at every tournament. I can't wait him to get back so he can play more tournaments. And